back to Harley Race, once I did that match with Harley Race, I mean, I was in heaven, man. Nobody could tell me nothing. And then that's when my career really started taking off a little bit. You know, I started working more veterans, and every week he put me with somebody else and ran an angle with Rufus R. Jones, you know, Freight Train Jones. And then after him, they pretty much kind of turned me, still I was a baby, but then they sent me up to Minnesota to AWA. One day, Geigo came to me and he goes, hey, Hughes, got a gig for you in AWA up in Minnesota. You need to go talk to Verne Gagne. Look him up when you get up there. And I said, okay. He goes, this is going to be your first, you know, big TV deal. I'm going, huh? He goes, yeah, they're on ESPN. So, you know, I was like, oh shit, really? So anyway, the day comes and I go up to Minnesota and I get in the building and this arena I think it was about a 15,000 seater, okay? And this is the first, besides Memorial Hall is like 3,000 seater, 3,000, 4,000 seater. But this place in Minnesota, at the arena in Minnesota, was bigger. And the place was going to be packed with people. And so I get to Minnesota and I park my vehicle and I go inside to meet with Verne, the owner. And I looked Verne up and I found his son. And what was his son's name?
Greg Gagne?
Greg, yeah, thank you. And I found Greg and I said, hey, I'm Curtis Hughes from Kansas City. Guy who sent me up here. He told me to look up your father, Verne, whoever. He goes, yeah, follow me. You know, and I followed him and he took me in the dressing room where Verne was, shook his hand, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. He goes, hey, Curtis, how you doing, man? You know, you're a great athlete, blah, blah, blah. We want to do something with you. Okay, you're going to be a baby face. He goes, you heard the Junkyard Dog and Rufus R. Jones, haven't you? I said, yeah. He goes, could you do some of that, you know, little shucking and jiving type of deal? I was like, oh, yeah, whatever you need, whatever you want. You know, and you know how Junkyard used to get out there and do his shucking and jiving and all that, Rufus too. And so they had music for me and everything. Now, I was green. I mean, I was nervous. And they said, oh, you're going to have to do a promo. We need to get a promo from you. And, I mean, you know, I was nervous as hell, but I still tried to do my promo. Now, I went to Kansas State, mind you, so my gimmick was Curtis the Cat. Our mascot at K-State was Willie the Cat, see? So I used that gimmick for my career, you know. So I called myself Curtis the Cat. But I learned a long time ago, put my name in my gimmick. You know, some old timers told me that. Because Vince was starting to come up and start signing people. And they say you can get royalties from that. And so when he told me all that, I was like, okay, I'll just leave my name the same. Yeah, I just use my real name. I just put Cat in it, you know, Curtis the Cat Hughes. So that's my real name. So I was like, my whole objective was to go to WWF, you see? And so I tried to do my first promo and I was just nervous as hell. You can tell this on YouTube. You can tell I was nervous trying to do this promo. And at the time, Eric Bischoff was there. He was the stick guy. And so that's back when he was young too. And he goes, yeah, just relax, Curtis, and just do your thing, you know, just relax. He goes, I'm new too, you know. So we both trying to learn gimmicks and characters and stuff like that. And so finally, you know, I cut it, you know, I messed up, cut it again, messed up. About 3 times it took me to get what they got, you know, and they finally got it. You can tell I was just nervous as hell, but they got what they got. It's on YouTube. And so finally I had my match. My first match was with Brad Riggins. Now, Brad Riggins was an old timer. He trained a lot of people too, but he was good. But that's the one they first gave me up there at AWA, and I thank God they did because he took care of me. Now, the thing he told me when I first got in the ring that I'd never forget, when I got in that ring and he came over to me, he just comes over and shakes my hand and says, welcome to the big leagues, kid. And then we had our match. And once we got done, you know, he shook my hand and said, good job, you know, because I went out there, I was doing drop kicks and, I mean, I was athletic. I was just doing my thing, you know, and Greg and Verne was very impressed. So they said, we're going to push you. And this is AWA. And so they started pushing me, man, every week. every week I went over. Every week I went over, you know.
AWA days, you were there, and it's still on ESPN. You know, you got the TV going, but it's sort of towards the end where they're doing like the Team Challenge series. They're doing all sorts of. They're just trying to compete, but you know, you can kind of tell it's a little bit. Did you get that sense when you were up there, or was this still like this is a major promotion here? You know, because they're still like the number 3.
Well, you saw it. Hell, I even saw it in Kansas City territory, because NWA had came in. And they had started bringing in guys from Atlanta, see, and kind of beating up the territory guys, see, the locals. You understand? Like we had Kansas City territory, and then here come NWA from Atlanta and stuff like that, and they started coming in and beating up the local guys, see, and so they started killing the territory, see. The stars in Kansas City was starting to do the jobs and shit like that. Even though when they started doing the big shows and bringing Kansas City in for Atlanta in for a TV taping, the locals would have to do the jobs and stuff like that. And so that was killing the territory, see? And at the same time, Vince was buying territories and companies and talent. And so it was going down slowly. And then I noticed in AWA the same way. Vince started pulling people from AWA, the stars from there. Sarge, he was there when I was there. Yoko, he was there. Rodney. I mean, I can go on down the line of all the people that were there the same time I was there and ended up going to WWF, see? And so that's when AWA started going down and down and down because we really didn't have any stars left. We had Nick Bockwinkel, he was still there, but he was getting older. You know, a lot of guys were getting older, but Vince was still taking the stars that had names, you see. And once he started doing that, then that's when AWA was hanging on by a thread, see, because I noticed it, and I know a lot of the boys noticed it, that the house started, when the fans started just trickling away. Because it used to be just packed. I mean, sold out. Right? But then when Vince started taking the talent, like Sarge and all these other names, places started showing Saturday Night Main Event in WWF, you know, and Vince was pushing all these stars in WWF, and it seemed different. And everybody was like, wait a minute, now, hey, this is a better wrestling over here. You know, they're on TV all the time, so they must be important. And so that's what happened with AWA. And then after that, then everybody was trying to go to WCW and WWF.
Did Verne Gagne have any feelings one way or another when you got picked up for WCW? Was he like, oh, I just put all this investment?
I'm pretty sure he was pissed. I'm pretty sure he was, man. I mean, ain't nothing he could do though. I mean, because when WCW called me, man, it's all about career, right? I mean, it's all about trying to make a living. You know what I mean? And I was still young and still, you know, trying to go this way with my career. You understand? And I didn't want to go and pass that up. I mean, he gave him a blessing, of course, you know, because I'm out of Kansas City. So I was Geigel's guy. So, you know, I talked to Geigel about it. Of course I did. Because I was like, Geigel, man, you know, what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do here? You know, because they first asked, because WCW asked me when they first called me if I was on contract with AWA. I was like, yeah, I'm on a TV contract, but it ain't nothing. You know, it ain't no big deal. And that's when they decided, once I told them it wasn't no big deal, that's when they decided, okay, well, we can do some business then. So you're not obligated to them totally. I said, no. It's just, you know, whenever I do TV, that's it, you know. And so once I told them that, then they said, okay, now we can do some business, you know. And then when they told me how much they was going to pay me, that's when I got back with Geigel and told him about WCW calling. He goes, go for it, kid. You know, I mean, you know, what you got to lose, you know?